So in today's video, we're going to go through the horrible truth behind applying for a role in accountancy and what's really going on behind the scenes. So let's go and take a look. Now, a lot of these companies have got recruitment firms who they partner with directly. So they might have a firm like the likes of Michael Page, for instance, that they will only use for recruiting new employees. So if you're an individual who's not involved with an agency, for example, and you're just sending in your CV or an email, then you're less likely to be heard than the likes of these recruitment agencies and these firms that that company's already working with. So unfortunately, the only way to combat that is to get yourself registered with an agency like Michael Page, and that'll have additional benefits for yourself anyway, because those firms will work with you to improve your CV, and they'll almost act as a barrier between yourself and the company, and they'll be able to better read what the company is wanting out of this new recruit. So they could design your CV in a way that fits that particular role a little bit better, and they also will be able to help you prep better for an interview, because they will have had a lot of dealings with that company and the individual who's recruiting, and will know most likely types of questions that they're going to ask in an interview. So a lot of the time when you get into a finance role, they'll ask you scenario-based questions, so they won't just want to know about yourself. They'll want you to give an example that's specific. So it won't be something as general as tell me a time when you've worked as part of a team. It will be tell me a time when you've had to adhere to deadlines, because there's a lot of deadlines obviously within finance and accounting. But again, the agency will be able to prep you better for that than what you probably will be able to do on your own. Now let's talk about levels. So one thing that you might not consider, or what you'll probably find out quite quickly when you're applying for these roles, is that it can be quite difficult to determine the level of expertise that's required for these roles, because they're usually quite general, specifically if they're an entry-level role. So they'll say things like, you need to be able to prepare monthly management accounts, you need to be able to reconcile the bank, you need to be able to reconcile the balance sheet, but they won't go into specifics. So what I'd say is the type of roles that you want to be looking at if you don't currently work in finance, or if you're working in a different sector of finance. So if you're purely a purchase ledger clerk or sales ledger clerk currently, but you want to be able to undertake a role that's very general in finance and you want to work your way up, then you want to be looking at the likes of trainee business advisor, trainee accountant, finance assistant. Avoid roles with the title of finance controller, finance manager, senior, and you should be able to find something at your level. If you don't want to look at the likes of Indeed and Reed or LinkedIn, you can go on these recruiters' websites who specialise in finance, like Agility Resourcing or Michael Page, and a lot of the time they'll have a list of jobs available, so you can always look on there or ask them questions about the jobs that they're advertising and see if they're right for your level. So you might be applying for some roles and not hearing anything back at all, and there might be a couple of reasons for that. So the individual company who are recruiting have certain times in the year that are busier than other times, so they're going to be wanting to recruit somebody in one of those less busy periods, which don't happen so often in accounting. So usually, from my own experience, they tend to recruit in September and January, and there's two reasons for that, and that's because that's one of their less busy periods, because when you get into the likes of October, January and April, for instance, you're heading into quarter-end reporting, which means that you've got month-end reporting on top of quarter-end reporting, so you're going to be quite busy in those periods. But the second thing is that ties up nicely with student timetables. So the likes of AAT, ACCA, CIMA, CITFA and ACA, for example, will put out timetables in the year for when certain exams can be sat, and it also includes when students will get the likes of day release. So if you're applying for job roles at any other time in the year and you're not hearing anything back, that could possibly be a reason why. So you might want to take that into consideration when you're applying. Now let's talk about approach. So one thing that you might be doing wrong currently is you might be trying to email these companies and firms directly. So you might be sending an email to somebody in their accounts department, for example. But what you won't know is that a lot of these firms, again, have internal teams that deal directly with the likes of recruitment. So a lot of the time, if somebody in accounts receives an email from an external candidate, they'll either send that on or simply delete the email, which again is not something you want to hear, but it definitely happens. The other thing is that a lot of these companies have major IT departments who will ensure that external emails are verified and viewed before they're actually received within somebody's inbox. So if you're an unknown person, so they don't recognise your email, there is a high chance that your email will then go into spam and it will never be seen. So the way that you can combat this, again, is by either going through a recruitment agency, or you can go on the likes of LinkedIn and possibly find somebody somebody who works in their HR department and contact them via message and just ask if there are any roles currently open, and most of the time they will get back to you. Now, the one thing that I'll say to anybody who's feeling discouraged currently is that you might have been trying to apply for a role for months and months now, or it might only be weeks and you might be feeling a little bit frustrated, but just don't let yourself get put off by it, because personally it took me months and months. So I think it actually took 15 months of applying to different roles and sending out over 100 CVs before I even got an interview. And then when I actually went for my first interview, I had to undertake 5 interviews for that job, and I didn't get it first time. So it's not just you if that's how you're feeling currently. And just know that if you just keep plodding on and you keep applying for these roles, or improving your CV and improving the way that you're handling the recruitment process yourself, in all likelihood you're going to end up in a role sooner rather than later. So I hope you found all of this useful. Please do consider subscribing as always, and I shall see you on the next video.